On a height he stood that looked towards greater heights, our early approaches to the infinite, our sunrise splendors on a marvelous verge, while lingers yet unseen the glorious sun.
Yeah,
What?
the only criticism I would have here is that
Yes.
he begins with that one sentence, that first sentence, and then that's talking about Aswapati.
Okay.
Aswapati is standing on this height.
Okay.
He's on great height and he's looking towards even greater heights because he's looking towards his daughter becoming Savitri and the supramental.
Hmm.
He doesn't tell us that here yet. But then the second sentence begins a totally different feeling, and you have to change your voice.
Oh, okay.
You have to change your voice because now he's telling us what our early approaches to the infinite are. But the first one, he's talking about Ashwapati. And
Okay.
in the very beginning of the book, there's something called author's note.
Yes.
This is so important for you to read because Sri Aurobindo, it's not actually an author's note. It was a part of a letter that Sri Aurobindo had written to a disciple.
Okay.
But in the archives in the ashram, they called it author's note.
Okay.
So here, the reason that maybe you could read that.
Yeah.
We could talk about that a little because that's so critical to the whole book.
Okay. The tale of Satyavan and Savitri is recited in the Mahabharata as a story of conjugal love conquering death. But this legend is, as shown by many features of a human tale, one of the many symbolic myths of the Vedic cycle. Satyavan is the soul carrying the divine truth of being within itself, but descended into the grip of death and ignorance. Savitri is the divine word, daughter of the sun, goddess of the supreme truth who comes down and is born to save. Ashwapati, the lord of the horse, her human father, is the lord of tapasya, the concentrated energy of the spiritual endeavor that helps us to rise from the mortal to the immortal planes. How do I pronounce horse? Am I pronouncing it right?
Yes, you're fine. Dumatsena, next.
Dyumatsena, lord of the shining hosts, father of Satyavan, is the divine mind, here fallen blind, losing its celestial kingdom of vision, and through that loss its kingdom of glory. Still, this is not a mere allegory.
This is
The
very important now. Very important.
Still, this is not a mere allegory. The characters are not personified qualities, but incarnations or emanations of living and conscious forces with whom we can enter into concrete touch, and they take human bodies in order to help man and show him the way from his mortal state to a divine consciousness and immortal life.
It's so powerful, isn't it? So
Hmm.
powerful. So, what he's telling us here, he gives us the main characters. There
Hmm.
are only a few. There's
Hmm.
Aswati, her father,
Mm-hmm.
who is the Lord of Tapasya.
Yeah.
There is Savitri, who is the daughter of the sun,
Uh-huh.
God, the supreme truth. There is Dumatsana, the father of Satyavan.
Mm.
He is the divine mind.
Mm.
Um, and so there are very few actual characters. Satyavan is the soul carrying the divine truth of being within itself. But he's descended into the grip of death and ignorance. That's about it. Four people.
Mm.
But they are not actual people. They're incarnations or emanations of living and conscious forces with whom we can enter into concrete touch.
Mm.
They take human bodies in order to help man and show him the way from his mortal state to a divine consciousness and immortal life. If we can begin to see them as conscious living forces, it will help us greatly. So when we begin, we see that in the secret knowledge, on a height he stood, he, Aswapati,
Okay.
that looked towards greater heights. And then he, I don't want to call it a generalization, but he specifically then tells us what our early approaches to the infinite are and what the earth's uplook and the human soul have to do. So now you can begin with our early approaches.
Our early approaches to the infinite are sunrise splendors on a marvelous verge, while lingers yet unseen the glorious sun.
Yeah, first you had verge correct. This time you missed it a little bit.
Okay.
Va, va, va.
What now we see is a shadow of what must come. The earth's uplook to a remote unknown is only a preface
Is a preface
is a
only.
is a preface only of the epic climb of human soul from its flat earthly state to the discovery of a greater self and the far gleam of an eternal light.
Of an eternal light.
Of an eternal light.
You're reading a little fast and missing a couple of things, so you have to
Okay,
read a little slower.
little bit slow. Okay. Our early approaches to the infinite are sunrise splendors on a marvelous verge, while lingers yet unseen the glorious sun. What now we see is a shadow of what must come. The earth's uplook to a remote unknown is a preface only of the epic climb of
Is
human.
the preface only of the epic climb. It's only a preface of the epic climb. It's a preface only. So preface and only have to be together.
Okay. Is a preface only of the epic climb
Good.
of human soul from its flat earthly state to the discovery of a greater self and the far gleam of an eternal light. This world is a beginning and a base.
Very good. Very good. You changed your tone.
Thank you.
That last group of sentences, lines, and now you say this world, and you got it correct. Good.
This world is a beginning and a base where life and mind erect their structured dreams.
In the previous line you had and this line you had and, where life and mind.
Okay.
And is a killer. You have to always pronounce the D.
Yes. This world is a beginning and a base where life and mind erect their structured dreams. An unborn power must build reality. A death-bound littleness is not all we are. Immortal our forgotten vastnesses await discovery in our summit selves, unmeasured breadths and depths.
Okay. And now you missed a couple things. So
Okay.
what we have to see first of all is immortal. Our forgotten vastnesses that are immortal await discovery in our summit selves. And then there's a semicolon.
Okay.
So immortal, our forgotten vastnesses await discovery in our summit selves. See, the vastnesses are awaiting discovery.
Okay.
So that's not exactly an enjambed line. An enjambed line means a line that carries over into the next line, but there always has to be a very short break in every line,
Okay.
almost a half a breath.
Okay.
So we don't run lines together, but
Mm.
but we but we give the understanding that they are together. The vastnesses are awaiting discovery.
Okay.
Okay, so immortal,
Immortal, our forgotten vastnesses await discovery in our summit selves. Unmeasured breadths and depths of being are ours.
breadths is a little difficult because there is a D there.
Okay.
Otherwise, it
Bread.
sounds like breaths. It's breadths,
Okay.
breadths.
Breadths.
You got it. You got it.
Immortal, our forgotten vastnesses await discovery in our summit selves.
But you're almost ending the sentence with the feeling that vastnesses ends the sentence. You say, immortal, our forgotten vastnesses. No, immortal, our forgotten vastnesses await discovery in
Hmm.
our summit selves.
Okay. Immortal, our forgotten vastnesses await discovery in our summit selves.
Excellent.
Unmeasured breadths and depths of being are ours. Akin to the ineffable secrecy, mystic, eternal in unrealized time, neighbors of heaven are nature's altitudes.
But here we want to accent slightly heaven. Neighbors of heaven
Okay.
are, are nature's altitudes. See,
Na-
nature, the highest parts of nature are actually neighbors of heaven.
mm. Neighbors of heaven are nature's altitudes. To these high peaked dominions, sealed to our search, too far from surface nature's postal routes, too lofty for our mortal lives to breathe. Deep in us a forgotten kinship points, and a faint voice of ecstasy and prayer calls to those lucent lost immensities.
And prayer
And prayer.
and a faint voice of
And
ecstasy to prayer.
and hmm. Deep in us a forgotten kinship points, and a faint voice of ecstasy and prayer calls to those lucent lost immensities.
The only comment I would make here is that we shouldn't drop the voice on points because pointing is upwards.
Okay.
So it is deep in us, a forgotten kinship points.
Okay. So maybe a slight accentuation upward.
Slight,
Yeah.
yes.
Deep in us a forgotten kinship points, a faint voice of ecstasy and prayer calls to those lucent
No,
lost
I didn't
immensity.
get and a faint voice. Again, deep in us,
Deep in us a forgotten kinship points, and a faint voice of ecstasy and prayer
excellent.
call, calls to those lucent lost immensities. Even when we fail to look into our souls, our lie, sorry, even when we fail to look into our souls or lie embedded in earthly consciousness, still we have paths that grow towards light.
No,
Yet,
no, no.
still have we paths.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Still have. See, you're trying to speak it almost in prose, but in poetry, things are changed around. It
Hmm.
is true that still we have parts.
Hmm.
That is true in prose, but in
Okay.
poetry, for the iambic pentameter, 5 beats, short, long, we have to have still have we parts that grow towards the light. 5. Still have we parts that grow towards the light.
Okay.
Got it?
What is a comparison you just used? It is in poetry.
It's iambic pentameter.
Pentameter. Okay. So I can
A-
get a little more understanding of how do I search for it? Understanding poetry meters.
just yeah, you can even say define iambic pentameter.
Okay.
Very simple.
Define
Very simple.
define I am pentameter.
Iambic, IAMBIC,
IAM uh,
BIC,
BIC.
and then the second word is pentameter, PENTAMETER.
Okay, got it.
Penta is 5.
Yeah.
So penta, 5 meter.
I mean, so this
Uh,
entire poem he has written in pentameter. Entire
iambic,
Savitri is in
iambic pentameter.
iambic pentameter.
But
Okay.
he does change it around a lot, but basically it's iambic pentameter,
Okay.
which is the preferred meter of all the great epics.
Okay.
It is the most powerful of all the meters of poetry.
Okay.
See how you go deeper and deeper into it.
Yeah. Hmm. Deep in us a forgotten kinship points and a faint voice of ecstasy and prayer.
Okay, so
Again, I missed something.
yeah, you voice
Voice.
yeah,
Voice.
but
Okay.
but 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 you read deep in us a forgotten kinship points like just like reading words.
Okay.
You want to say deep in us, a forgotten kinship points. See, you want to make me feel that that kinship that is deep in us points to something.
Mhm. Deep in us a forgotten kinship points, a faint voice,
And a faint.
and
You always miss that one. You missed that
deep
twice now. And a faint voice.
deep in us a forgotten kinship points, and a faint voice of ecstasy and prayer calls to those loosened lost immensities.
Yes, but it's calls to those loosened, not calls
Calls to
to those
those.
loosened. Call, there has to be just a slight emphasis on
Extension.
calls.
Okay.
It's not anything strong.
Hmm.
Mother almost pronounces every word with power. We
Hmm.
can't quite do that, but um, so you want to tell me that story again now. You ended with um, nature's altitudes, period. Now, from to these high peak
Hmm.
dominions to immensities, read that to me and tell me what you feel, how you feel this. To these
To
high,
these To these high-peaked dominions, sealed to our search, too far from surface nature's postal routes, too lofty for our mortal lives to breathe.
okay, let me stop you there. Too far and too lofty are very important here. But
Mhm.
you just read them too far, too lofty. No, too far,
There has to be power.
too lofty.
Mm.
Yes.
Okay.
Not power so much as intensity, perhaps.
Okay.
Too far.
Too far from surface nature's postal routes,
Good.
too lofty our mortal lives to breathe.
For our mortal lives.
Too lofty, I'll start again. To these high peaked dominions sailed to our search, too far from surface nature's postal routes, too lofty for our mortal lives to breathe. Deep in us, a forgotten kinship points, and a faint voice of ecstasy and prayer.
Voice.
Or
Voice.
voice, voice, and a faint voice of ecstasy and prayer calls to those calls to those lucent lost immensities.
Okay, so you almost got it right. You realized that you had not said calls properly, and
Yeah,
you changed.
yeah,
Now those lines that you just read are very good. I
okay,
got the message.
okay.
We can
Even
carry.
even when we fail to look into our souls or lie embedded in earthly consciousness, still we have paths that grow
No,
towards the light.
no, 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 no. Still, we have.
Oh, again, I read it like that. Okay.
Yes.
Even when we fail to look into our souls or lie embedded in earthly consciousness, still have we paths that grow towards the light.
Doing well. You're doing well. And I'm sorry that I have to interrupt you so many times,
No,
but
it doesn't. I mean, it's. I don't know what to say. You're actually helping me. Like, it's because I'm making so many mistakes. You're interrupting me. So please don't say sorry.
okay.
And I'm happy that I'm improving. So it's good.
Good, good.
Even when we fail to look into our souls or lie embedded in earthly consciousness, still have we paths that grow towards the light. Yet are there luminous tracks and heavens serene, and Eldorados of splendor and ecstasy, and temples to the Godhead none can see.
But that was again just reading lines. And
Okay?
temples to the Godhead none can see. You see, we're making temples to a Godhead that we can't see. You have to bring that across to me.
Okay.
We're building temples, these temples to the Godheads none can see, period. And then he changes again, a
Mm.
shapeless memory.
Mm.
Okay?
Yeah, I'll read again. Even
Sure.
when we fail to look into our souls or lie embedded in earthly consciousness, still have we paths that grow towards the light. Yet are there luminous tracks and heavens serene. Heavens, yet are there luminous tracks and heavens serene, and Eldorados of splendor and ecstasy, and temples to the Godhead none can see.
Excellent.
A shapeless memory lingers in us still, and sometimes when our sight is turned within, earth's ignorant veil is lifted from our eyes.
Those three lines you could do a little bit better.
Okay,
You want to also, that word us is important. A
okay.
shapeless memory lingers in us
Mm.
still. It lingers still in us. And sometimes when our sight is turned within, earth's ignorant veil is lifted from our eyes.
Oh my God, when you read it, like I understand what you're speaking to. Really reading that mantra to you, because when you read it, really lands inside. So yeah, thank you. A shapeless memory lingers in us still, and sometimes when our sight is turned within, and sometimes when our sight is turned within, Earth's ignorant Earth's ignorant veil is lifted from our eyes.
I think
There,
yeah, go ahead. You can do that better. You can do
okay,
those three lines much better.
okay.
Tell me exactly what Sri Aurobindo is saying here. Tell me in prose what he's saying from these four lines.
He's saying that our memory is still, lingering from the past, and
But it's shapeless.
yeah, it's
Doesn't,
shapeless.
doesn't have any shape, huh?
Yeah, it
Doesn't
doesn't have
have
any
any
shape.
coherent shape.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when we look within, when our sight is turned within, when we look within, sometimes the earth's ignorance is lifted from our own eyes. And we might get a very short, miraculous escape.
Excellent. Now read it in poetry. A
A
shapeless,
shapeless memory lingers in us still,
yeah, but
and
it's a shapeless memory lingers in us still.
a shapeless memory lingers in us still, and sometimes when our sight is turned within, earth's ignorant veil is lifted from our eyes. There is a short, miraculous escape.
Fair,
Okay.
fair.
So I read again. A shapeless memory lingers in us still, and sometimes when our sight is turned within, earth's ignorant veil is lifted from our eyes. There is a short, miraculous escape.
There was a secretary of the mother's. You've probably heard his name, Udar.
Okay,
And his wife was Mona, and Mona was in charge of Golconda.
okay,
Udar would read Savitri, and he would upraise his voice at the end of every line, which was very weird. But and temples to the Godhead none can see. A shapeless memory lingers in us still. And sometimes when our sight is turned within, it doesn't quite work
hmm,
that way. But there is behind it a certain truth that sometimes when our sight is turned
hmm,
within, or a shapeless memory lingers in us still,
hmm,
earth's ignorant veil is lifted from our eyes. If we drop the tone on the last one, it doesn't work. A
okay.
shapeless memory lingers in us still.
Hmm.
Sometimes when our sight is turned within, earth's ignorant veil is lifted from our eyes. So,
I understand what you're
between
saying.
those two extremes, we have to find the one that works.
Okay.
Good. The
I
shape,
try again. A
yes.
shapeless memory lingers in us still, and sometimes when our sight is turned within, earth's ignorant veil is lifted from our eyes. There is a short, miraculous escape.
Better. But I still feel that lingers is not quite
In
important enough for you. You're not putting enough, I don't want to say emphasis, but I want to say intensity.
intensity, okay. A shapeless memory lingers in us still.
Lingers.
Lingers,
Lingers.
lingers,
Now you're accenting the second part of the word. It's lingers. Ling,
lingers,
lingers.
lingers,
Yes. It's
lingers.
not lingers, but lingers.
Okay.
What does linger mean?
To continue, like it's prolonging from before.
Yeah, true.
Like trace
But
of it still remaining.
yes, but also lingering. If I'm lingering around,
You're
I'm,
expecting something.
I'm hanging around.
Yeah, hanging around. Yeah.
So it lingers in us still.
Mm,
It's a lingering feeling is something that continues, but it's not so strong. It's hanging around there.
mm.
It's a shapeless memory that hangs around us still.
A
Okay.
shapeless memory lingers. A shapeless memory lingers in us still.
Yeah, but
And
could you say a shapeless memory lingers in us still?
a shapeless memory lingers. Am I getting it right?
No,
Lingers.
you're putting
Ling-
memory and lingers together.
okay. A shapeless memory lingers in us still.
Very good.
A shapeless memory lingers in us still, and sometimes whenever sight is turned within, earth's ignorant veil is lifted from our eyes. There is a short, miraculous escape.
Do you feel better about that?
I mean, it's still not quite ready.
But you're getting better. You're
Yeah, I'm
getting
getting
better.
better. Yeah,
It's
better.
improved.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, carry on a bit.
This narrow fringe of clamped experience we leave behind meted to us as life.
See, there again, we don't want to say we leave behind meted to us. We leave behind meted to us as life, meted given to us as life.
Okay.
But we leave it behind.
Hmm.
This narrow fringe, the little fringe of clamped experience. That's all we have. What do we know about astrology? What do we know about science? What do we know about history, geography? It's a fringe
Hmm.
experience.
Hmm.
Now, if you ask me what do you know about horticulture, I could tell you, well, at my best, I knew perhaps a few thousand botanical names and
Hmm.
common names, and yet there are millions.
Hmm.
So I knew nothing.
Hmm.
And the more I realize that I know nothing, the closer I come to the truth.
Hmm.
So,
This narrow fringe of clamped experience we leave behind meted to us as life.
but it's
Our
we leave behind. We leave
We
behind.
leave behind, we leave behind, meted to us is life.
See the difference?
Yeah,
Can you hear the difference in your
yeah,
voice?
yeah.
Okay.
Our little walks, our insufficient reach. This narrow fringe of clamped experience we leave behind, meted to us as life. Our little walks, our insufficient reach. Our souls can visit in great lonely hours.
Now you caught something right there. You caught the feeling. You said, our souls can visit. You had it without striving for it.
Hmm.
You just told me exactly what our souls can do. You
Hmm.
said, our souls can visit in great lonely hours. Now
Our
you've caught it.
Our souls can visit in great lonely hours, still regions of imperishable light.
No, no, not still regions, but still regions. These are regions that are still. They're not still regions. They're
Mm-hmm.
regions that are still.
Mm.
They are still regions of imperishable light.
Our souls can visit in great lonely hours, still regions of imperishable light, all seeing eagle peaks of silent power and moon flame oceans of swift fathomless bliss and calm immensities of spirit space. In the unfolding process of the self, sometimes in the inexpressible mystery, elects
But
a
this almost has to be mysterious.
okay.
In the unfolding process of the self, sometimes the inexpressible mystery elects a human vessel for descent. A breath comes down from a supernal air, a presence is born, a guiding light awakes, a stillness falls upon the instruments. See, he's telling us in this unfolding process of the self, that inexpressible mystery sometimes elects a human body
Hmm.
for of descent. Okay, you try it.
In the unfolding process of the self, sometimes the inexpressible mystery elects a human vessel of descent. A breath comes down from a sup-
Supernal.
supernal air. A presence is born, a guiding light awakes, a stillness falls upon the instruments.
But now we're reading again. You see, a
Ah,
stillness falls upon, a stillness
yes.
falls upon the instruments.
A stillness falls upon the instruments, fixed, motionless, like a marble monument. Stone calm, the body is a pedestal supporting a figure of eternal peace.
But that gentleness and sweetness into some of not all of these lines.
Mm,
When Death is speaking to Savitri, he's very powerful.
mm.
But in these lines, it needs
More
more,
sweetness.
more depth, more
Okay,
more sweetness
okay.
in the unfolding process.
In the unfolding process of the self, sometimes the inexpressible mystery,
Yeah, but it's not sometimes. It's sometimes the
sometimes,
inexpressible mystery. You see,
sometimes, sometimes, correct? Sometimes,
yes,
in the unfolding process of the self, sometimes the inexpressible mystery elects a human vessel of descent.
good.
A breath comes down from a supernal air, a presence is born, a guiding light awakens, a
Awake,
stillness
wakes.
awakes. He's really saying how a human soul gets birth.
Yes,
He's saying that a vessel is just selected, it's elected from to express this mystery.
yes. Not everyone, but it's sometimes
Mm,
it elects a human vessel.
mm.
Um,
In the unfolding process of the self, sometimes the inexpressible mystery elects a human vessel of descent. A breath comes down from a supernal air, a presence is born, a guiding light awakes, a stillness falls upon the instruments, fixed, motionless like a marble monument. Stone calm, the body is a pedestal supporting a figure of eternal peace.
the word is monument.
Mon, say again?
Monument.
Monument.
You
Mo,
say you
mon,
say monument. You say monument.
okay, monument.
Monument. Yes,
Monument. Yeah, the U has to be pronounced.
yes.
Monument.
And also, you see, he puts a comma after fixed,
Yeah.
and a comma is a slight hesitation
Hmm.
because it's you see the body
Hmm.
is fixed like a marble monument,
Hmm.
and it's a pedestal that supports this figure of eternal peace. What an extraordinary lines.
A stillness falls upon the instruments, fixed, motionless like a marble monument. Stone calm, the body is a pedestal. Stone calm, the body is a pedestal supporting a figure of eternal peace. Or a
Now,
yeah,
read to the end, and then we'll stop for today.
okay.
So,
Like still the gulls?
yes, till it
Okay.
goes.
Or a revealing force sweeps blazing in out of some vast superior continent. Knowledge breaks through trailing its knowledge breaks through trailing its radiancies
Yes, but
and
you see, it blazing in, there's a semicolon.
blazing in, yeah. Or a
So
revealing force sweeps blazing in out of some vast superior continent.
good.
Knowledge breaks through trailing its radiancies, and nature trembles with the power, the flame. A greater personality sometimes possesses us, which yet we know is ours. Or we adore the master of our souls, then the small bodily ego thins and falls. No more insisting on its separate self, losing the punctilio of its separate birth. It leaves us one with nature and with God.
I think we'll stop there because then
Okay,
the next one is quite a longer phrase.
okay,
They're very important. It goes on to the next page.
okay,
So you did much better today.
okay. I'm
Big,
happy for that.
I would
Okay,
say, big improvement.
okay.
Um,
So I will continue to do the homework like before then, listen and pronounce certain words and like
and
whatever I did
and look
between
up
the two
iambic
lines.
pentameter.
Pentameter, yes, I will do
Try
that.
to learn a little bit more about that,
Yeah,
and and a little bit more gentleness in
in the
some of
word.
the lines. Yeah,
Okay, okay.
wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you.
You're welcome.